This shows you, and we've been talking about this as we've talked about the court, this president's going to have a harder time with this court. And I'm not trying to normalize what the court has done on the shadow docket. And millions of people's lives have been harmed as a result of what this court has done. But when you start getting merit decisions on where the court has to contend with the full record, has to hear argument, and has to really look at what Donald Trump has done, there's going to be no way to square that, that square in a round hole. There's not going to be any way to square it. And so I think that this is a precursor to what I think we will see in some other cases this Merritt's term as well.
And Mark, something that also really struck me in this Declaration of Independence was how definitive the opinion was with regards to the question of statutory authority. Yeah. And it was a contrast to what the lower courts had said, right? They used the language that Trump had exceeded his authority. But they did not go as far as SCOTUS went when it came to saying that IEEPA language did not permit tariffs, full stop. Can you explain the discrepancy there and what you think the rationale of the justices was?
Well, the Chief Justice made it very clear that he thought these tariffs did not fit into any statute, especially the emergency statute that Trump had cited. But he also drew on first principles. He said, look, the Constitution assigns this power primarily to Congress. Congress has delegated some of it, but when it does so, it does it in a limited way with clear restrictions and time limits. And this statute, by contrast, this emergency powers law, it lets the president do anything he wants. And that is really foreign to our constitutional system. To read this vague emergency law, to give the president a blank check to impose taxes on the American people, that feels completely out of step with a system of separation of powers, right? Where there are divisions between the branches. And as Gorsuch said in his dissent, Congress is supposed to make these ultimate policy judgments. So I thought that the chief wanted to make his rhetoric very sharp and definitive, to directly address this idea that, well, it's kind of ambiguous language. Maybe you could read it for the president because he was elected by the people. We should defer to him. The chief said, no, no, no. Let's look to the Constitution and try to figure out where that guides us. And it guided the majority to a point where they just could not put this kind of weight on the statute and had to say, Trump, these tariffs have been illegal since day one.
Michael Steele, you now have people who Donald Trump himself nominated to the bench, bucking him. And I think the question as always becomes, will we see congressional Republicans do the same? To that point, two data points for you. One, here's what Chuck Grassley had to say about today's ruling. He noted he was one of the only sitting members of Congress who had been in office for the passage of the 1970s emergency statute. And then you have Mike Johnson with this word salad. No one can deny that the president's use of tariffs has brought in billions of dollars and created immense leverage for America's trade strategy and for securing strong, reciprocal, America First trade agreements with countries that have been taking advantage of American workers for decades. With respect to the speaker, one can deny that. Congress and the administration will determine the best path forward in the coming weeks. I mean, there is an argument, Michael, that the Supreme Court just saved them. This is wildly unpopular politically. It's almost just like allow the court to save you from yourself. But it doesn't seem, Michael, that Republicans are willing to do that.
No, they don't. And I want to take what Alicia set up and just throw it in the table for both our guests here to go play with, like, kittens with a ball of mittens. Because the reality of it is very much in this new space. The Republicans have hid behind Donald Trump's skirts, knees, behind whatever body part they could find to avoid political and legislative accountability. They don't want that. Mike Johnson, word salad, was being kind. That was a hot mess of nothing, because the Supreme Court, to your point, was very definitive, right? Very clear about where they wanted to go. Donald Trump, to his point afterwards, was very clear about what he wanted to do. In fact, as Alicia noted coming in, did it. Has now issued another executive order, now a 10% global tariff. Unilaterally. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you tell us whether or not Republicans are prepared to play in that arena, given the definitive nature of both the judicial and the executive branch's roles as they define them.
And this shows you the weakness of Mike Johnson. I mean, they don't have a response. They continue to aid and abet this president. The $200 billion. This is money that was taken out of the American people's pockets. There are small businesses that are going to have to get, refunds as a result of this. And the dissents go on and on about how complex that is. Well, how complex do you think it is, Justice Kavanaugh, to, to have to live without the funds to operate your business because of an unlawful policy? And so this has really had a devastating effect on the American people. And then you see, the president doing what he does. He's going to threaten the judges. I'm sure some of them will show up with mortgage fraud charges. And just wait.
Exactly.
We'll have to go through that. I mean, he's going to threaten the judges. And then he tries to go right back and circumvent rulings. Now, what we've seen in the cases that we litigate at Democracy Forward, and we filed a big historian's brief in this case, it turns out that, as the court said, this just doesn't match our history. We fought a revolution over
You
taxation
spelled it
without
out for them just in case they forgot.
Spelled it out.